The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the host/guest and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any of BXR entities and those they represent.
What's going on, people? This is your host, Nate Couser. I'm praying that my internet is not struggling today. But I'm back every Friday at 5 p.m. Well, 5-ish p.m. Only on BigExposedRadio.com. Today, I think he has earned it. He's been here for a couple Fridays, so I can call him a guest co-host, till he, F's up, then I'm gonna revoke it.
Wait a minute, hold on. I have officially earned the title of lead host of today's Cocktail Social.
Niggas always want to come in and usurp after you to put years in, but I mean, he can think whatever he want to think. Delusion is, is on you. Damn it! I just realized I left a bag at home, but oh well. So today I'm gonna talk a little bit about what's been going on this week, and then we're gonna jump into our first topic today: men on women, and I'll discuss that or explain that a little bit more after we catch up.
But before we continue, I want to congratulate you on your fashion show, which was absolutely fabulous. It was it was fabulous. You had some items in there. It was cute. The models was cute.
But that means that's what he wanna borrow those things. That's what that means.
I did see a few pieces that would look better on me. A few earrings. I saw a couple of skirts, but it was really. I'm gonna congratulate you. Job well done. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
Yes, and
appreciate
you. And so where can we find all of your stuff?
Let the my website will be coming up in just a few days. At least by the end of next week, it should be up. Or you can come to the studio at 5709 Harford Road. We'll be opening up officially soft launching this Saturday with a little sip and shop if I can get this place up and running. It looks scary in here right now, but we'll be doing that in addition to kind of a more official opening in September, like mid-September, once we get everything rolling and I get back into the swing of being a teacher again. I'll be the art instructor this year for the whole school, so I won't have just the fourth grade to deal with, which is a blessing or not. I don't know if it's a blessing, but I don't think I want to work with the fifth graders because that was my class last year, and I don't think I want to work with them at all. I'm gonna suggest that I not. Strongly suggest that I don't do that. But this week, this week started Saturday of last week when we. What did I do? So there was an opening at the Peel Center. Then I went to a nice anniversary party at this place called Gundry. It's out Owens Mills. It's basically like a gun enthusiast venue. They have actual gun ranges. They have this huge gift shop. I believe you can buy guns there. I'm not, don't quote me because I didn't really go around the gift shop too much. There's like a cafe there, and we were in the VIP room. And there's also like a simulation room. Mm-hmm. I believe they had two of them, but there's one that's just for the VIP, and then they have another room. And then the VIP, which we were in, it was basically like a hall, and you can rent it out, and they do special events in there. There's a bar in there. There's a cigar lounge. We had this, the couple was celebrating their 40th anniversary. My friend C. Natasha Richburg is the author that came on here a lot. It was her 40th anniversary, and we had a great time. The food was spectacular. It was just a nice spread of food. They had this lady come in that made ice cream right on the spot with the little nitrogen oxide and all that, and it was delicious. And Natasha is the only person I know that will invite you to her celebration and give out gifts. I think I left with maybe 4 or 5 gifts. This was one of them. One of her clients sells this.
What is that?
This is whiskey. Syrah rye. Ooh, almost dropped it. Syrah rye whiskey, and this is. Let me put this down if I drop it. But that's the whiskey, and then I haven't opened up 2 of the gifts, and then there was a gift bag full of. I'm celebrating their 40th with their family, with their friends. It was just a lot of things going on. I think that's my internet is a little wonky today, but yes, it was great. And then after that, I made it. I made it down to the. I did a couple fittings. Came back to the studio, did a couple last minute fittings with some models, and then I went off to the first official event for Baltimore Fashion Week, which is Impact Award, and they honored quite a few people at the Impact Award, also at Center Stage. So that was great, and then I wound up coming back home and just falling out because I haven't been rolling like that in quite some time in the last couple of years. So doing that much in one day was a lot. Sunday, what did I do Sunday? Sunday, I was at the studio for most of the day, finishing off with a few models. And it was really, exciting because I was getting things together and in order, doing the last minute things. And I wound up not finishing until maybe like 12 o'clock. And I said, okay, I'm sit in this chair. And then that went from me rolling my little comfort. I'm going to get up at 1. I'm going to go home. I'm going to sleep until 8. And then I'm going to get back over here. That turned into me falling asleep until 10 a.m. And I jumped up and packed up everything. And by the time I finished that, it was probably like 12 o'clock, a little after 12. And Missy Lane was coming and I had to carry off. It felt like I was moving out. That's what it felt like. And I took everything downstairs. We got to the, right. It felt like it with all that stuff that I had.
Yes.
But we wound up getting to Center Stage, and I realized I had not taken a shower, and I felt, I don't know what it is, and I'm not a dirty person. I'm a person who could go a day without a shower, but I don't ever feel that way, especially if it's hot. I don't feel that confident, but I'm glad that I am clean, and I can get it together. So I wound up having to do all the things with the models. We got to the venue, and luckily Tracy Jiggets, who was the host, a phenomenal host.
She really was.
Got there a little bit after everybody. Right, she ran me home. I took a shower, got back, and I felt like I had gotten my second win, so I really felt good. And I got there just in enough time for the models to be out of hair and makeup and to get them dressed. Well, most of them dressed, and the show started. And it was really good. I wish I'd gotten to see it, but because of how fast it was, I was dressing models and didn't really get a chance to see the show, but everybody realized that and started sending me clips and video after the fact the last couple of days. So I got to see bits and pieces of it from what people sent me, and it was really good from what I could see. And being in the backstage, you just trying to dress people, and because I had the most models and models that were in other lines, I was getting them dressed as literally as people were coming out. So this was my first official showcase with Baltimore Fashion Week. And it was really fun. It was really exciting. Next year, I don't think it's officially, she said it during dinner. So I think her New York Fashion Week installation and Baltimore Fashion Week next year.
That makes it official. She said it.
So
I was present. She said it. It's
I'm
official.
really excited, but I say it again.
Mother is saying that it's official.
It's official. She said it. I was there. I witnessed it. She said it. It's official.
It's official. I mean, she said it during dinner, so I mentioned it. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. But I'm just saying she hasn't made it an announcement yet. You know, she like to make a press release for everything, but I think she'll be announcing it this Sunday for the final show. And I just have more time now. So I did all of this in less than 2 months. I want to say about a month and a half. So that was really, that was a lot for me. It was almost 2 months. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, shout out to Tracy Jiggets. She was a phenomenal host, an excellent talent.
She's coming back this Sunday.
Wonderful. So a shout out to Tracy Jiggets. Question for you: what was the highlight of the model? What was the highlight of Fashion Week for you?
I'm a person that likes to complete stuff. I don't. It's not really how people perceived it as much as me completing something that I started. That's a big thing for me. Not that I don't ever complete anything, but it is hard being an independent solo artist, not a part of a conglomerate or a group or anything, because you often have to do a lot yourself. And I had a lot of help throughout this process. Missy Lane helped me with some sewing, a lot of sewing. Miss Nyla Peaks was my assistant throughout all this. I hired her literally when I found out, because I knew I couldn't do it by myself. All my friends that were support systems, Tracy, who else? It's just a lot of people. I think I named a lot of people. Nicole, Missy Lane, all those people who just jumped in there and really were a great asset, and this support system physically in this process. And then all of you who showed up. I know a lot of people could not make it. I got a lot of those condolences type of calls throughout the week. But I think overall the highlight for me was just doing it, because it was, I'm not gonna say it was last minute, but for me it was a shorter window period than what I would have wanted to have. Like this time I have a whole year to a year for Baltimore Fashion Week and a year and a month for New York Fashion Week. So I'm really focused on that, but that was the biggest highlight for me, just getting through it. Right. And I'll set the goal of I had set my goal to be finished on the 9th of August. And I didn't quite make that deadline because some scheduling issues with other models and such. But I moved in the midst of all of this, which we'll never do that again. I don't care how much comfort or whatever. And I had a lot of help even in moving. I had a moving company, but it still was a big thing, packing and unpacking, which I'm not finished doing, of course. But yeah, that was the biggest highlight for me, just completing it. I know for the models and all the other people, they got their picture with Rashad Bateman. So I know I didn't know the line was that long. I saw people in line, but I didn't know that that's what it was for. But I got to meet him, and he's a really cool guy. It's great to have that type of energy in Baltimore that want to really support for the sake of supporting and not just putting themselves on.
Now
But yeah,
he's coming out with his own fashion line. Am I correct?
yes. So it's like
Okay.
a sportswear type of line.
Okay. Okay. Well, shout out to him.
Mhm.
Question for you. Was it
Mhm.
different? Well, first of all, I noticed that when for a lot of your fashion, it was jewels and accessories to like clothing. Am I correct?
Yeah, so I did. Mainly did accessories. Some of the pieces that were more printed pieces,
Mhm.
I did those, but it was mainly to showcase my jewelry. I
Okay.
didn't do a lot of clothing for this.
So now, was there an underlying theme that you were going for, or were you just showcasing the stuff that you could?
Theme.
Hmm.
So, did you actually? Was it an
A
underlying theme?
theme, yeah.
So, so the theme of this was mahogany.
Okay.
I absolutely love that movie. I've watched it so many times, and I didn't. I tried to pay homage to the movie with a couple pieces. Like the final piece was the scene where she was being photographed, and as she shook her dress, all the birds kind of flew out. So the final look was kind of my version of that or my interpretation of that.
Right.
But mahogany was definitely my um, theme.
Mhm.
My inspiration was also mahogany and Diana Ross. And of course, I didn't really, I think for next year, I'm going to pay more homage to, what's his name? Leon Talley.
Mhm.
Andre Leon Talley. I'm, I'm just putting it out there, but he's going to be my underlying theme. So it's definitely going to be dedicated to men
Okay.
next year.
Mhm.
But Mahogany was the theme. The music, of course, was from Mahogany. The theme song, the intro and outro, we kind of mixed it together.
Right.
And that's what that was. But I just love the movie. And it wasn't so much me taking references from the, well, I did take references from it, but I didn't make it so literal. But that was
Okay.
the overall theme of it. I wanted to introduce Leon Talley, but I didn't. I just didn't have enough time to really incorporate that with the men.
Mhm.
But next year you'll see more of my take on Leon Talley.
And I know that you stated that this year you did a lot more accessories. Will you be doing actual like will you be actually doing clothing next year?
Yes, that's why I said Leon Talley will be my biggest inspiration. So I'll definitely be doing more. I don't want to give too much away, but you'll see kind of that Leon Talley look, like the later part of his life, where he did the big Kafkans and
Mhm.
cloaks and stuff like that. So that's more of my aesthetic.
Okay.
That's
And
why I
how
wore what I did at the end.
now and how many of those pieces are going to be for me?
I don't know. I don't know. It depends on what your bank account looked like at that time. That's what it is. Because my goal this time was to showcase something that I do naturally. So for the winter time, I typically make those big crochet necklaces.
Mhm.
I kind of stepped it up a little bit this time. I typically only make them to order.
Mhm.
But this year, of course, because I did the fashion show, I had to make a lot more of them uh, ahead of time. But it kind of jump started me. Every year I say I'm going to start in January making them. So I'll
Mhm.
have a huge supply of them by the end of the year. And I never do it. I just never do it. But this year I was able to jump start, even though it was towards the middle of the year.
Mhm.
I was able to jump start that and get a nice supply of them up. But yeah, so I showcased more of my jewelry this year, and I styled all of the other pieces. If I did not make it, I put it together style wise, which was very difficult working with 20. I had 30 models, and by the day of the show, it was only down to 24. But that was an ordeal. I've never dealt with that many models at one time before.
I want to give
a musical.
I want to give a shout out to those models. I think that they were really good. Again, I want to congratulate you on a job well done. I was thoroughly impressed. I was pleased with what I saw. I didn't throw my can of tomatoes. I definitely had I had a family-sized can of Del Monte tomatoes that I was going to hurl at your ass as soon as I saw it. If it was a mess, I was going to throw that can at you. And
I mean, first of all, every video clip that was sent to me, I heard your voice on it. Yeah, and when I realized where you were sitting and where they were sitting, you wasn't near any of them. And I know it was your voice because nobody else yells out their mouth like that. And it was crazy because a lot of people sent me video. Like the one girl sent me a video of the they called the flooding, the model flood, and they all come out, and they so a lot of people sent me that, and that was your voice all throughout that. Just being you.
Absolutely. I wanted to let you know that one, I was there, and two, I was impressed. And had you not been impressive, that would have been a resounding boo.
And you know the weird thing about it, I don't get nervous as much as I get anxious, because I don't. The show for me is just like, you done the work, so let's just do it. So that theatrically, because we did interviews on, I believe that was Wednesday, with Sharon Nixon, all the designers, and the people who showcased. And it was just an interesting space because I was the only one that had theater training. So I've done costumes for the entire cast of The Wiz, or Colored Purple. We did the Colored Purple once. And I've done costumes for a huge cast before. Right. But it's different when you are creating all of them versus going to buy things and fitting things. It's still the same pressure, but it was a little bit different because it was my name and my creations on the line in this moment. So I don't ever get nervous because I know people like my stuff. I could tell by the stuff that people bought from my table that was outside of the theater, but it really was it was an interesting process. Shout out to Brother Calvin for coming through in the clutch and really doing his thing. Like, without him, I think I would have been crazy because he took a lot of the extra stuff that I would have had to do, and he was able to help him. He was steaming garments in the beginning. He was helping me dress models. I was able to trust him because if you don't know Brother Calvin, aside from him being an actor, because he's in You Thought I Was Him as well, aside from him being an actor and a musician and a singer, he's also a stylist himself and a model. So he knew what it was to be backstage at Baltimore Fashion Week. So he was able to jump in and I could trust him dressing people. All I had to do was tell them what they were supposed to wear. And thankfully, I was as organized as I was, because it made it so much easier. Oh, it was so much easier.
Right.
So I was able to do, and I may help some other designers talking to Sharon with that process, because that's the part that, especially if you've never done it before, is a very daunting task. But I had my experience with being a costumer. So I knew what backstage was like, and I had performed at center stage before, so that made it the nervous part of it go away. But,
well, I think if you aren't nervous, then there's something wrong. I think it's a testament to you as an artist and as an a designer that you invest that much energy into your designs and your creative process and your creativity.
Yeah.
And I mean, even as a performer myself, if I'm not nervous, I feel like something is wrong. Because
but is it different the more experience?
Not necessarily nervous, but it's the rush of, okay, we're about to go on, it's about to happen, the exhilaration of it all, and then it's a high. Actually, it's a high when the moment is over. You're like, wow, it's a rush.
I still get a form of nervousness when I'm acting on stage, but it's more adrenaline versus I didn't do all that I could do, because I knew it was nothing else that I could have done creation wise or editing wise. There were one of my models at the last minute could not make it, and that happens. But I was able to fill in with another model, but they were a different size, so luckily they brought pieces that could adapt to mine. So I was able to make one of them. One of the young ladies missed the fitting, her fitting altogether. So of course her piece did not fit her, but myself and brother Calvin were able to get her inside of it, and
make it work.
It just all worked out. It just make it work. So I wasn't, on my behalf, for my level of readiness, I was not pleased with a couple things, but for the most part, the majority of the stuff, I was very pleased with, the finishing of it and getting things in order. I just know what it takes now to do it. In terms of, I'm used to another designer having a fashion show and asking me to create pieces to complement their wares. So the pressure isn't always on me. And then I always get to see the show because they're backstage doing all that craziness. But this was the first time I couldn't see what was happening, and I'm a control freak. And I like to have that level of control, and I didn't have that level. Even when they called me out, we were dressing people that had just finished the last show. So the last line. So I could not get out there to even speak on as we were doing. But I'm really excited. So that turned into, we wound up going to Cheesecake Factory after. Always a great time when you get a free meal from the Cheesecake Factory. So I spoke that into existence, and it happened.
Yes, you
did. Definitely happened.
That was a part of the night.
Tuesday for Baltimore Fashion Week, we ended up at Be More Scrap. And Be More Scrap is, I've talked about it before, and I've actually had Nancy on before. It's like a thrift shop for artists. For art supplies, whether it be fabrics or yarn or art, paint, school supplies type of stuff, art, creative art supplies. And we wound up we did like a tour and an interview with her, myself, the stylist that was there, Sterling, and Sharon. We all went down there early on Tuesday. I don't even think I was really that well rested. And then Wednesday we did interviews. Yesterday, I believe she did interviews with all the models. And then today they're supposed to be meeting at a restaurant. It's supposed to be a meetup at a restaurant. So that has been a week, and I'm really exhausted. I'm glad I didn't have to talk throughout that whole process, because I probably would be very hoarse right about now. But how was your week?
My week was, I can't say it was as busy as yours. Your week was you had a lot more going on. So my week was really calm. This was actually, believe it or not, this was a really laid back and relaxing week for me. I mean, I definitely had to work, and my line of work is always stressful, but outside of that, it was a cool week. It was cool. Nothing too stressful. I'm about to enjoy a wonderful weekend. I'm gonna turn up a little bit. So I'm gonna get my turn up on before next month, because next month is all work and no play. So I'm gonna get some play in while I can. So, I'm kind of free this weekend. I don't have to do anything work related this weekend.
I remember my 20s being that. That was what my 20s were. Yeah.
What? Play?
No, I was saying that's that busy life, always doing things overlapping. That's how I spent my 20s.
Well, the funny thing is,
Literally, that's how I spent my 20s.
what people rarely realize about me is actually I'm very introverted. So I have to have moments where I am out and about just to kind of, get some energy out of me. But usually I'm the type of person who I kind of like to stay in the house. I don't like to get out and about too much. Because one, like when I was younger, I got into a whole lot of stuff. I did a lot of partying, so I don't need to do any partying now. I got that out of my system. But every so often, I like to get out and socialize and cut a rug here and there. So that's what I intend on doing this weekend, especially when you have to have a healthy balance. So I spent a lot of my 20s doing a lot of working. And so now that I'm in my early 30s, I'm able, since I'm, excuse me, hello.
The
Um,
lives.
since I'm in my early 30s, I'm going to take some time out to enjoy being in my early 30s.
Okay. Well, in your delusion, I've really I think I took my 30s and I've learned how to be more selective. In my 20s, I was in maybe 2 or 3 theater companies at one time, including school. And literally, there would be times where I would have one show and I would not even do the curtain call because I would be driving over to the next show. And I always had flyers for everything. I always was doing many different things, and my 30s definitely just slowed down. Not to a stop, but it definitely slowed down because a lot of stuff that I had gotten accustomed to all was changed. So I had to create more of my own work, and I had to find different ways to be an artist in my own right and not depend on other people to produce work for me.
Well, I do say that I'm glad that I'm getting back into performing as much now, as much as I was then, because I feel that that's a good outlet for me. And I don't like. First of all, I absolutely detest the 40-hour work week. And if I had to do 40 hours, I would want to do 40 hours in possibly 3 to 4 days and have a 3-day weekend. Unfortunately, that's not the way it is. And so that's me. I do enjoy the fact that I'm actually performing a lot more. Shout out to Jonathan Gilmore and the Funktopian family for having me as a part. The Carpet Players for having me as a part, because that gave me an outlet to kind of get some of that pent up energy out. Now, what I will say is, it's not a lot of time in a day, and it's and going to rehearsals after work, that was taxing. Um, Especially what type of the career that I'm in, it is extremely it can be stressful. So having to leave right from work without decompressing and then going and rehearsing 5 days a week, that's another job. But I will say performing is a lot. It's so much fun. Now, if I had to choose between singing and acting, I mean, I kind of like them equally. Um, I'm a lot more fluffy now, so dancing is definitely not something that I want to be doing. I definitely need to, but I'm definitely not a fan of dancing as much as I am of singing and the acting. So, but I will say again, congratulations on a job well done.
Thank you.
Yes, yes,
It is
yes.
definitely it's definitely very rewarding. And like I said, this was a breeze for me, or much easier than it was probably for a lot of other people that were part of this or who do this for the first time, because I have theater experience. And people don't realize theater definitely will train you. Um, thank you, Miss Bliss. Thank you, Miss Coed Bliss, the couple of couples. She was also a Coppin player and an actress on the stage. Just theater definitely trains you for everything. You can go into any field imaginable and be better prepared because you have experience in theater, and it gives you a level of confidence where most people would be running around. Like everybody around me on Monday was panicking because I was changing models as my models were walking out. But for me, it definitely, I was cool. I've been in that space before where I've had to do a quick change or I've had to help somebody do a quick change. And it really is just a part of the theatrical process. And I think everybody was looking at me, wanting me to panic, but I just knew I could only put them in line in an order and send them out. But um, I I suggest everybody at least try theater. It will help you with time management. It builds really good confidence, and be able to express yourself and have that confidence in speaking.
Thank you, Co-Ed Bliss.
Oh yes, you do know her. You do know her. She's also, I believe, a counselor, a therapist, herself, her and her husband. So I believe you do know them.
Wonderful.
But in addition to all of that was happening, I got to see one of my fellow Coppinites, and it's weird calling her a fellow Coppinite because she is definitely an elder. Mama Jackie came and graced us this Wednesday. Go ahead.
I'm so mad that I was unable to see her because she is definitely a breath of fresh air. I mean, like the sunshine. I love her so much. I absolutely do. I absolutely do. I mean, she is just everything to me. And I miss her because I haven't seen her. Yes. Yes. We did. Yes.
That's the little short, feisty lady. She a little short, feisty thing.
There's nothing wrong with being feisty.
There's nothing wrong with. She does it very well. She does it very well. But yes, Mama Jackie came, and I have not physically seen her in person for years because typically when she comes back, she goes way out because her mom is in a nursing home and mom lives here. So we don't typically get to see her. So I physically have not seen her in years. In years and years and years. I think since she left, and that was way over 10 years ago. But I talked to her a lot on the phone, or we on Facebook. But it was great seeing her in person and hearing her voice in person. And she is one of the writers for the You Thought I Was Him project.
Really?
She also wrote for she wrote quite a few pieces for a Real Nigga Show as well. And it was only befitting to bring her to the spinoff of a Real Nigga Show to continue to write. A lot of people showed up. I forgot the other gentleman's name. He's a Broadway actor. He showed up because Miss Jackie came. And we also had a couple other writers show up, but it was great seeing Miss Jackie. That was the first thing I did was took a picture with her because we hadn't seen each other, and she was one of my favorite Coppin players at Coppin while I was there because she not only did she have the experience, because I was technically non-traditional. Most of us were non-traditional at Coppin, but we were surrounded by teenagers, and I was only a few years above that, but it was great having somebody who I was used to. I'm used to being around older Black women, so it was very comforting to have her as a fellow student because she kind of gave me a little bit more balance at the space. But it was great seeing. If you don't know Jackie Terry, she's a writer, a poet, an actress.
Oh, she's
All
force.
things mama. Yes, all things mama. I just miss her being on campus, and she had a little bag with her. So in between classes, if you couldn't make it to the subway or the Rathskeller, she had something in that bag that was gonna feed you, whether it was some fruit or some oatmeal or a little sandwich or something. She had something that was gonna feed you. So it was great seeing her. And we'll be breaking bread this weekend. So I'm really excited. But that has been a phenomenal process in and of itself, working with this group of men. And when we do have women, because the writers are women, our choreographer is a woman, our stage manager, Mama Jackie, not Mama Jackie, Mama Meekins is a woman. So we have a lot of balance, but we have a whole new group of young men. They were announced on last Saturday. The cast of You Thought I Was Him, and we'll be announcing the 7th character, which is a dancer, uh, uh, shortly. So look for that. But this was our first official rehearsal.
Right.
So how befitting to have our first rehearsal with Mama Jackie there. We were reading off the script, and y'all better not miss this. Opening day is November the 11th, and it runs to November the 27th. And it's gonna be phenomenal. This is about the first read through that we had. Phenomenal
Well,
already.
you do know that
Yes.
I will be sitting in and watching from the rafters because I am looking forward
You
to
will
this.
enjoy it.
I am looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to coming through and sitting in on some of the rehearsals. And I'm not going to add any of my 2 cents. I'm going to keep my money. I'm going to keep my
Oh,
change.
you for you to be there, you're gonna Troy is definitely gonna lean on your therapeutic point of view. I'm so proud of both of y'all. You are a force that drives Baltimore on a better direction. Thank you, Miss Coed Bliss.
Oh, I mean,
it's just
and Miss Bliss, you do know I miss you with your wonderful self.
This internet is dry. Is it yours or mine? It might be mine.
It's yours. It's
But
definitely
we
yours.
are. Shut up. But I'm just really excited for all that's to come, and I've been listening to a lot of the congratulations from people, and it's not that I don't take love well. For me, I'm focused on completing the job and going to the next level and doing the next thing. And this has definitely been a process for me, and just staying focused because all the storms that were coming up, it just gave me it just gave me like some extra strength to just keep it moving and just staying focused. But speaking of being focused, which has nothing to do with our topic today, men on women, and it's kind of I took it from men on film. Remember the section of
you know what? When I saw it, I said, "Oh my goodness! Please don't tell me we're doing something a tribute to the what is it? In Living Color."
I Live in Color.
I said, first of all, I do not want to be doing any two snaps. I'm gay enough as it is. I don't need to add any more spice to my meal. I mean, come on. And look, when you said it, I said, men on what? Men on women. I said, oh no, I don't think I'm ready for that.
But a lot of so I'll explain it. So there's been a crowd swoop of individual males, young, older, whatever, on social media, getting attention for mimicking the personalities, or on one side is like stereotypes and tropes, and on the other side is this personality, as lighthearted as how their mama act or how the first lady of a church act. And there's been a lot lot of uh, portraying themselves or forward facing them the internet. And then on the other side, there's been a lot of reward for these men for their social influence due to the characters that they are portraying on their Instagram and TikToks and so on and so forth. Because a lot of them have gotten jobs. Blaming on Quay or K-Way. He's now on in Tyler Perry. Yeah, K-Way. He's been featured in Tyler. Then you have the other comedy careers based off of it. And there's a big divide. And I think it's a little bit heavier on one side, the people who don't like it and think it's a gay agenda or the industry trying to reduce the masculinity of men. The correct phrase has escaped me, but it definitely speaks to these men are being turned into women.
Well, I don't believe. I understand what you're saying. I think that it's
generation. I even heard for the first, but I've never heard beta man before. So this new generation is called the beta men because portrayal of women, physical portrayal of women. Mm-hmm.
Well,
I just never. Go ahead.
I think that when you think of some comedians in the past who have portrayed women as in comedy routines, I don't think it's something that is that's new. I think it's just that it's been modernized, and I think that when you have someone of the opposite gender giving their portrayal of, a male portraying a female or a female portraying a male, usually it is their interpretation. To me, is always interesting to see. I think it's funny. I think blaming on Quay is absolutely funny. What's the one that does the church? It does all of the church personalities, and he has like several. He's absolutely funny. Tim Bay, really funny. There's the McDonald. Let me tell you, every time I see the one that portrays the McDonald supervisor, he portrays every female McDonald's supervisor or manager that I've ever seen, because they absolutely have attitudes like that, which is why I would never work there, but ever. But I think that that it's lighthearted. I think people take things too seriously these days. I mean, me personally, I don't find any of that offensive. I don't see how it is. It speaks to anything about their masculinity, who they are as men, because it's clear that they are. This is a comedic routine. This is something that they're doing for fun. And even if it is a persona that they're taking on, I think that this is. I don't see it as something that is negative. For instance, like I think who is it? Tim Bay's character. He plays he plays both the male and female. So it's like they're in a couple. It's like he's almost in a couple in a relationship with himself, which is really cool, because it's really interesting for me. But it's so different from the guy that plays the sugar daddy and and Mr. James, and so he plays the sugar daddy and his side piece, and he's always, he's honking his horn at her and everything like that. That's absolutely funny. So I follow a lot of them, and I don't see anything.
It's hard not to, because they're either that you see everything that comes up on the algorithm for them, or you see other people sharing it or imitating it. And it's interesting, because this used to be how women got put on, or this used to be things that you saw women doing. And I think it's very interesting that men are now figuring out a way to usurp the whole Hollywood route of getting in, and they're building their own fan bases and really calling their own shots to the point where they're competing against people who have been doing this for years. And it used to be like, you know, the Fantasias, like people would get upset because they felt like they got a speed pass to success that a lot of them didn't get. So you hear a lot of the comedians who are getting top billing, sometimes over them or on the same level as them.
And shout out to them for cutting out the middle person. You know, a lot of them, that's what it is. They cut out all of the fluff, the middle person, and they did it themselves. You know, and the reason for that was because they probably did attempt to go the original route, the way that everyone used to do it,
and
they were blocked. And they weren't accepted. So for the guys that decide to put on a wig and impersonate their mother, their grandmother, kudos to you. Because if you were trying to be a comedian and they weren't accepting of you, because a lot of times it's kind of elitist, cliquish. If you don't know anyone, you're not connected to anyone, they won't give you a break.
Mm-hmm.
And so you are forced to figure out how to do it yourself. For instance, you know, there's a lot of independent artists that are making their own movies, independent movies. Using their own budget,
own plays, own music videos.
And I think that is one. I think it is remarkable. Two, I think that is something that I'm glad that they're doing it, because now they're making a market for individuals, and they're really putting a dent in Hollywood by saying that we don't need your money. We'll make our own way. We'll do it our own selves with our own materials. And it may not look like $1 million budget, but it still is entertaining. It works. It's artistic. And I think it's good. There's the one guy that he has the female Muppet. And the little, absolutely hilarious. I follow him as well. So I think that they, you know, I think it's a space for them. On the YouTube, they actually have the YouTube series where now they're having, like, you know, these webisodes is what I'm calling it, where they have, it's almost like sitcoms on YouTube. Absolutely phenomenal. Some of them are really good. Some of them, you know, I could leave or take, but there are definitely some that are doing wonderful things. So I don't see anything wrong with it. I think, I think individuals that have a problem with it usually are reading too much into it. They're adding their own shit to it.
So I look at it, yeah.
You know, I think so. I think,
and I look at it from a couple. So I look at it from a couple different perspectives, and I think we have to. One, a lot of this is self-therapy, and I can tell a lot of these people, especially how deep they're going with it. And I'm not saying there's always trauma at the end of it or at the origin of it, but there's some type of, this has been my experience. And I think people are, because they're portraying women, specifically women, are really upset by it because they are portraying women as men. And often a lot of the material that comics, actors, musicians have is from their own personal experience. We spoke about the young man who does the church characters. And a lot of what he has done, if you spent any time in any Black church, you have seen these people before.
Absolutely. Which is why.
So they're making money off of their experience.
Right. And that's what makes it so. I mean, I think a true comedian is able to spin a funny tale about reality. You have to be able to do it in a way where you can. It could be a tragic. I think of comedians such as Richard Pryor, Red Fox. They spun their tragedy in a way where they were laughing at it. Now, if you're telling that same story with a different inflection in your voice, you could definitely hear that there's some pain. There may have been some things behind it, but they were able to tell those stories in a way where you can find the humor. And I think these individuals that are doing this now, I mean, again, I believe that I agree with you to say that it's therapeutic. I agree that sometimes it's good to laugh at some of the stuff that we experience because we take a lot of things too seriously. And I think that can be very divisive and detrimental to individuals' emotional health. So I applaud them for doing it. You know, I think more people should. I think it actually speaks to their emotional intelligence to be able to do that. And a lot of times what happens is that they're only giving their perspective of how they see the world around them. So for the guy that portrays the females in church, or he doesn't just portray the female, it's a whole family. So it's like he has a list of characters, and from the first lady to the pastor himself, to the little the little girl, his daughter. It's a whole family of individuals that he's created, and it's very entertaining. What is it? Blame It on Quay. The female that he portrays, very entertaining. So, and there are even females. One thing, there are females that are. There are even females that are portraying other females. For instance, the female that dresses as a church lady, and she, you know, she's always reading somebody in church, and she's, you know, beating them down with the Bible. She breaks into a church dance. There's another one that portrays a mother, and everything. All of them are hilarious, and the individuals that are offended by comedy, I feel are just super sensitive individuals that aren't able to look at things and through a comical lens, comedic lens. Yeah, that's better. Hello? Hello. Are you there? Am I on this thing alone? I feel like I'm alone here. I am alone. I've been talking to myself. Well, what in the good hell? Well, that is the cocktail. So there must be some technical difficulties with my co-host, Nate Couser. We're going to give him a moment to get back on here. But yeah, that's my spin on it. I think that in this day and age, in the cancel culture, we're quick to cancel out things that we don't understand. And we don't allow ourselves an opportunity to be open to a dialogue about some of the stuff that is actually going on around us in our society, especially when it comes to entertainment. We see that with a lot of the shows that are coming out, you know, P-Valley, some other controversial stuff. So, I mean, that's just my spin on it. I think that they should continue to do what it is that they do that brings them the attention and the success that they're looking for, and they found an alternative route of getting to that as opposed to going the Hollywood route.
I completely agree too, because it shows that there is an audience for what they produce. And just because those that are offended, they don't have to watch. Keep it moving.
Absolutely.
Every latest rock headed towards the door. All of them. Bring every toe when you get
But the funny thing is that even though they're offended, that doesn't stop them from watching.
Right. They watch to the and that's what that's what the record is showing, that they watch to completion, but then want to have commentary after the fact. But it's fine to have commentary, but then you have to take that commentary and turn it around on it, basically, because it's still showing in the numbers that they make it bank off of it.
Absolutely, and that's a good thing. I think that the dialogue, I don't have any. There's nothing wrong with the dialogue. I'm glad that we're not playing it safe. I think that we are moving away from playing it safe, and we're starting to question some of the things that we were forced to, you know, just march to and listen to and believe. Now we're starting to question a lot of things. We're starting to challenge a lot of perspectives. We're starting to, get back into being true artists, daring to be different. Because for a moment,
it's also time to start inspecting who are these people that are offended.
Right. Absolutely.
There's too much content out here at this point now. There's too much content out here to be offended by anything because you don't have to watch it.
Absolutely.
There's a million cable channels. There's a million different platforms. There's a million different content creators. You don't have to focus on the content that is being created here.
And not everything is an agenda.
And most of them only came to the content because it was popular.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You only typically go to content that is already popular.
Mm-hmm. And not everything is an agenda. You see a man with a wig on, you want to say he's gay. No. People have been doing drag for years, and it has nothing to do with just sexuality. It's a performance. It's entertainment. Women have been getting in drag.
To that matter, who asked you for your opinion? Who asked you?
Well, I will say this. We've gotten into the point where with social media that everyone wants to share their opinion about something. And, it's okay. You can speak your piece, but no one has to accept it. It's not like your piece is your truth. It has to be my truth. Your piece is your truth. It doesn't have to be my truth. You got to be okay with it not being my truth. And that's the problem. They're trying to convince people that what they're saying is fact, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's fact. It's just your opinion. And it's okay that you have an opinion, but that's not my truth. And so you have to allow me to speak my truth and be okay. But I'm being told that we have to break for commercial so that we can highlight some of our sponsors. So see you after this short commercial break on Be Exposed Media. Mr. Couser.
This was my boy, Emmett Till. I got a letter today from Auntie Lizzie. She said Beau's been working the fields. I can't imagine. Oh, he just doesn't understand how different things are in Mississippi. Are you listening?
Yes.
Be small down there.
Like this?
Emmett never thought anything would happen to him.
Meet the mommy, Simmy!
Ow! He just wanted to go on vacation and have fun with his cousins. But if my son could just get his feet back onto the Chicago soil, he'd be one happy kid. I don't know why I said that.
I want to talk to you about that boy.
They've come for you. It's hard to describe what a mother knows. The first thing I noticed when I became a mother was that my hands were busy all the time. My hand knew him with my eyes closed, just like I know his laughter in a crowded room. It's the same thing when you know all of someone. This was my boy, Emmett Till.
The body of Emmett Lewis Till has been found dead.
Can I at least just fix him up a bit?
No, they have to see it for themselves.
You tell me, Mamie, how is risking your life gonna help you?
Those pictures of your son change people's lives.
I can't look, Mamie. We have to. The lynching of my son has shown me that what happens to any of us, anywhere in the world, had better be the business of us all.
That's hard to watch. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to the Artist Exchange Radio Show here live only on BeExposedRadio.com. Just a quick sidebar. That clip that you just watched or trailer was from the latest movie about the life of Emmett Till. There was one like TV movie a long time ago that came out about his story. And there's actually a few books out on him. There's also a play, The Face of Emmett Till, about his story from his mother's perspective, the book that she wrote or contributed to writing. There's also an exhibition I believe it should still be at the African American Museum of History and Art, but I know it was on loan. It actually depicts, and it's so eerie, you feel like you're in March funeral homes. Every time I've gone there to see it, that's the feeling that I get that I'm in March funeral homes. You actually see the original casket of Emmett Till lying in state. There's not a body in the casket. There's images in the casket. Huh?
I said, I would hope not.
Well, yeah, they've done that out of respect, but just the look of it. You know how you go into a funeral home, the viewing rooms, and it's all one monochromatic color, and there's like this faint music playing. That's the feeling. And to go into, it's a small room and that is being exhibited in, and you physically have to go in a line to see it. It's not like an open exhibition, and you really feel like, and it's, you go in one way and you come around the same way you would in a viewing situation, and it's very eerie. And this is one of the movies where it's going to take me a few years to physically see it, and it's going to have to be like a rainy Saturday or a blizzard for me to force myself to watch it. But I've done the play several times, and I've seen the exhibition, and I remember the original movie. But it is definitely an eerie feeling for this.
It's definitely going to invoke a lot of feelings. The issue that I have is that it's not really an issue. I think the story needs to be told. It's just that I feel like in this day and age, with so much that's going on, you get anger, but what does that anger actually do? You know?
Yeah.
And I think I'm just thinking about here in Baltimore, some of the stuff that we've been experiencing with regards to the violence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're showing every other day you're seeing an incident where the police is mishandling individuals, abusing their authority and their power. I had a conversation this morning with someone about how, they were profiled, a police officer without any real reason was just drove behind them, ran their tags, and then pulled them over. And for nothing more than, well, we just wanted to run your tags. And it's so much, it's so much going on. And you then a movie like this comes out, and it's going to definitely stoke those flames and everyone is going to be on edge. And I'm only going to speak for myself. Seeing something like that is definitely going to spark something within me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the type of person who I'm a verbal person. I'm an action-oriented person. So it's going to make me want to do something. Mm-hmm. But it's in a society especially where we have these different movies such as this that comes out and it's supposed to, one, enlighten you, but also start a conversation, try to get to move you into action. But it really doesn't, to me, it really doesn't do that. And so I'm kind of on the fence about seeing this because I see it doing something but I don't see it doing what I believe that they want to do with telling this story.
It's one thing where there's a story that's being told and you can watch it. But the same thing that happened with 12 Years a Slave or The Django or Mudbound. I still have not watched Mudbound. And it just and for me, I'm versed on history, so I know the historical references and historical figures that these movies are depicting. So it's just very hard for me to watch it because I do know the history. As an artist, I learned art history, theater history, music history, but that is the same history. You're learning the same time periods that, you know, slavery, civil rights movement, all so on and so forth. You're learning the same thing as it pertains to a specific point of view. But it is definitely, you know, when I hear people say we don't need another slave movie. I was watching Sherry Shepherd's Two Funny Mamas, her and Kim Whitley today. And Kim Whitley, they asked her, like, what is something that she always wanted to do? And she said, I want to play a slave. And her reason was she wants to really get into that mindset, she wants to challenge herself to evoke those emotions. And Sherry Shepherd, being the very crossover artist that she has become, she called us stupid. Like, what is wrong with you? And I think that was such the wrong perspective to have, because we can't have enough. Because one, they're not teaching it in schools. They're not teaching it at home. So where else will they get it?
I think the reason, and I can kind of, I can't speak for what Sherry was saying. I think that though, seeing those types of things, it's traumatizing. And I think what happens is that you don't know what to do with that trauma, because once you tear that bandage off, there's no one there to mend that wound. And what happens
but what needs to happen is the follow-ups, whether it be at home or be at school or be in community and museums and art. The follow-up conversations then need to happen. We can't keep going through life pushing things into the furnace and just burning out. It's our history.
But what we're finding, especially with people of African descent, Black people, is that they're uncomfortable dealing with a lot of those psychological and emotional traumas. And that's why it's so hard for us to seek out therapy. That's why it's so hard for us to go to grief counseling when we're seeing our young people getting murdered every day. You know, that's why we have to have Baltimore ceasefire groups and things of that nature, because we don't deal with trauma well. As much as we are strong. We are strong in a sense where we're able to take a licking and keep on ticking, but we don't realize that licking is cancerous. It's becoming gangrenous inside of us, and it's festering. And so what happens is on the outside, we look like everything is okay. On the inside, we're dying.
But we have to, and I hear you. I understand where you're coming from, but we have to harness that, and we have to collectively collect ourselves and be able to turn that trauma into a sense of pride, a sense of self-love, a sense of community, unity. We're the only race of people who is embarrassed by our struggle.
I don't think it's embarrassment. I think that
it feels like embarrassment to me.
It may feel that way. I don't think it's embarrassed. I think that we are deeply impacted by it, and we've never actually been given an outlet to heal. Because as much as you want, when you show us something like an Emmett Till movie, it is nothing for us to go out tomorrow and see that in person. It is nothing. Here in, we may see it in Baltimore as just simple gun violence, but that is not just simple gun violence. That Emmett Till situation is a situation that happens in urban communities every day. So what you're showing them,
until we embrace the good, bad, and
I think
in my opinion, there's no way to continue to blame not necessarily the people who did this. I'm not saying that. I'm saying at some point, like the Holocaust, like the Asian history, like the Native American history, like the Hispanic history, at some point we have to embrace what has happened, and we can't rely on any other race of people to do that for us.
But
we
they
don't,
haven't.
as a unit, we laugh at our history, and I do feel it is an embarrassment on us, because I remember feeling that embarrassment when I was in white institutions learning the false history. I felt a little embarrassed by it, but something happened to me where I had to embrace those stories. It doesn't make it easier for me to watch those stories, so I understand that aspect, but I can't keep blaming somebody else because I have not healed yet, or it's still hard for me to heal. Now, there are other factors that keep us from doing that, but at some point we have to make, like in your line of work, nobody can push somebody into your office if they're not ready.
Right.
I can't suggest you see this client if that client isn't willing to walk through that door.
Well, so now let's take it. I think that this is where you got to be careful, because a lot of times what happens is that what we assume is an individual not caring is not that they don't care, it's that they don't know how to respond.
Right.
For instance, there are a lot of people who respond to trauma with, they may laugh, but that doesn't mean that they're not hurting. It's just that they may not know how to respond to it. And so I think that, for instance, in my line of work with individuals that may be struggling with something psychological or emotional, their expression of it may be completely opposite of what they're feeling. But that doesn't mean that they're not feeling it. And that doesn't mean that they're not trying. They're trying as best as they could, as with what they know how to do. And when you talk about individuals, when you talk about the Holocaust and everything, those individuals, their tragedy was acknowledged. Theirs was acknowledged. It wasn't capitalized on. It wasn't looked at and said, you know what? It wasn't minimized. Ours was not acknowledged, has yet to be acknowledged. And that's the reason why there may be so much pushback, because we continuously explain this is what has happened to us, only to be said, only for individuals to say, but that happened and you should get over it.
Right.
And it's done damage. It's done generational damage. And what we're seeing is a product of that. We're seeing a product of a system that is designed to tear a group of individuals down, and it's been effective. So when you say, well, when you hear, I don't want to see that any longer, I don't believe it's because they don't take it seriously. I think it's because it has so much of an emotional impact on them that if seeing that, you may be at your breaking point. I know for me, whenever I saw, like, what was the Fruitvale
Station.
I
still haven't watched it. That's another movie, and I get it, Blue. Like, I really do get it. But we can't wait for them to acknowledge us. And I'm not just speaking on the side of we need to heal, but we have to realize we are perpetuating the history, like the history keeps repeating itself. And it's not necessarily on us, but we have to make a collective decision with our own culture that, one, we respect our culture, because I do, even though we have been victims of the trauma, we are pushing the envelope of get that out of my face, get that off the TV, get that out. So we won't heal waiting on somebody to acknowledge our pain. And I get the fact that our plight in this world has been ignored purposely. I get that. But we have to make the individual choices I got to move forward from this. And now that individual choice, I see people making that. I have to move forward, and everybody moving forward in their own way. But we have to collectively now. Individually, it didn't work. Collectively now, we have to do it.
I think I think I understand that, and I absolutely get it. I think it's difficult to do when what you're trying to move from is constantly being you're being re-exposed to it. So the thing about it is that it's hard for you to gain any rehabilitation. Phone lines are open. Yes, phone lines are open if you have any comments or if you want to, you have something that you would like to say. But what I was saying is that I think it's hard for you to move on when you're being subjected to it on a consistent basis. And for us, that's what's happened. You know, you can't say, let's move beyond, or let's move beyond it. We got to heal, and we're still getting beat down by police officers.
And that's why I see the value in these films and these expressions of art in our history, displaying our history, because I think, and as an artist, I've done plays as an actor or as a director, and I've infused like even parts of this fashion show, but me using the wooden chains, like that was a part of my expression of our history in general. But I do feel somebody is just like the Nat Turner story with Nate Parker.
Mm-hmm.
That's somebody being inspired by something they learned and they want to share that. Even though it's hard for me to watch those things, it's harder for me to hear somebody say they don't want to see it anymore.
Well, the thing is that you have to have the ability to move around the circle, you know. And again, you have to be in a place where you have that emotional maturity to be able to say, I'm able to look at this and I'm able to take something from this and allow it to inspire me to do something, to create some beauty out of something that's ugly.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's still ugly to you, it's going to have the same impact that it did originally when it first happened. So
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we have to be careful, because that anger, it can be self-destructive. And that's what we're seeing. You know, a lot of times I believe that what we're seeing is that when you don't have an outlet to express yourself, you turn on yourself. And so that's just my perspective. It
is, and I get it. I do understand it, because it's the perspective that I take personally. But as an educator, as an artist, as a person who loves history, I can't see a space where we're not learning, because our
what's the purpose of learning?
Didn't stop. So it's not like you're showing these same films to the same generations over and over and over again. But a lot of these people have never seen Roots, or they've never seen depictions of every aspect. Because for me, I want you to not only show these fictitious stories, I don't want you to keep making the same Harriet Tubman movies. I want you to show everybody, because there's an assumption that we were docile and we did not fight back, or we were savages, or there's a lot of misconceptions by individuals who refuse to watch these new slave movies. They just refuse to watch them.
So let's be mindful as to why. We are a group of individuals whose stories have been told to us, but those stories have been used to manipulate. They're not many of the stories weren't necessarily factual stories. And so you have to be very mindful of that a lot of times that there's a lot of distrust, and a lot of manipulation because of who's telling the story. What is the intention of the story being told? you know.
But I think those days that still happens. But in today's world, you have the Nate Parkers, you have the family of Emmett Till, yes, into this. You have these families now, or these individuals that look like us that are leading the charge now with these films. So they're not just the Django's. They are actual depictions or representations of facts or historical accuracies. And whether they be fiction or based off of nonfiction, I think it is still very important for us to feel it, to see it. And I only am, and I remember my first time going to the Holocaust Museum and feeling what they felt. And there's a difference because our history has, in many spaces, been ignored or passed off or just not acknowledged in its fullness. And we're still debating on what reparations will look like for us, whereas though it's been figured out for everything else and everybody else throughout history, even up to a rebate check, during the pandemic. But so we know it's possible. But on the other side, I just think we have to find a collective energy, because every generation that is birthed is more and more disconnected from history. When I realized the great grandmother that I was raised up with, was born 5 years before Harriet Tubman died. That shit fucked me. It messed me up in a space, in a way that up until that point, going to white schools, I was so disconnected from my own history, realizing I had that touch of history in my life. And Harriet Tubman died in the Eastern Shore. Like, just to realize is that, and not to just keep harping on her, but the city that we live in, places that I worked in, the amount of history that is ours that reside there. I've learned that reverence for it, but I see every generation after mine being more and more detached from the respect, the reverence, the honor, the compassion of our own history. And I get the trauma attached to it. Go ahead.
I think that part of that is because they're living in their own pain. I think that what happens is that when you start going into history, people who have a hunger for history, they feed off of that. That's something for them to learn about those past eras. But for a lot of individuals, they don't need to look to the past when they have to deal with the present. And they don't have to really, I get that there may be some insights, there may be some things that you may say, well, you know what, if you read this book, or if you learned about what happened here, then perhaps you could learn how to deal with now. But then and now are two different spaces. And the reality is, for a lot of, especially for this younger generation, they have their own traumas that they're dealing with. So actually looking back, it is not, they don't see it as relevant to them, even though we may have said, well, we can see that there is a connection there. They may not see the connection, or they may see too much of a connection and say, you know what, I can't deal with seeing all of that. I can barely deal with my today. I can't look at yesterday. I have to be able to focus on this moment now. And so I think that, again, I just imagine, I had a young lady, she just lost her son to senseless violence. I imagine what it would be like for her to see this movie. What that would do to her emotionally. Because again, seeing something like this is her reality. This isn't just history. This is her today.
But what if it does the opposite though? What if it does the opposite though? What if it gives her a voice? Because this story is, as much as it is about the atrocity that happened to Emmett Till, it tells the story of an individual who felt like they didn't have a voice, who gained a voice, who used that voice, who pushed that narrative, recreated the narrative, and got a lot of change to happen, other than arresting a lady who is said to now be suffering from Alzheimer's BS. Yeah. What if it does the opposite?
I think in this situation, even in telling this story, that is their me showing my pain. I don't think that this is, to me, this is, I'm telling the story and I'm retelling the story to consistently slap you in your face over and over and over, because I don't feel as though I got the justice I deserve. And so for me, this is how I am getting the justice, by retelling the story, by showing you, I'm holding a mirror.
And it's interesting to see it from that perspective. But again, when I see these things, it answers questions that I have. It shows me that we were not just sitting and being slaves. It showed that we were innovative. Many of our inventions that we have today came out of Black ingenuity during slavery. So, but I don't get how pain is the only thing that you choose to see in this. And that's just how I'm seeing it. And I didn't have a perfect upbringing that would allow me to ignore what may be a reality for all of us or individuals. But I just feel like we need to look beyond just this one thing and just really see all the other things that came from it. The fact that you can choose what you want to see and what you don't want to see now should make you understand what it is. And again, I'll say in the same breath, a lot of these movies, only because I've studied the historical aspect of it, watching the movie won't really give me anything new. But when I do add one of those movies to what I've watched, it validates my feelings on one side, on the traumatic side, but it also teaches me many lessons. It just teaches me my history, so I know it. We have generations of people who don't want to watch The Color Purple, let alone, Birth of a Nation or 12 Years a Slave. They choose not to watch it only because of the title.
Mm-hmm. And I think I think we have to be okay with that, because people are at different levels when it comes to what they can handle. And as I think that some people can look at it and again, they can pull from it a lot of things. They can pull from it. Some people can look at it and it does nothing for them. And then there are others that it does a whole lot. And, and so we have to be okay that it doesn't do the same thing for everybody. I do believe that when you think of it again, movies like this, you have to be kind of careful, because there are people that are dealing with certain emotional and psychological states that this could be a breaking point for them. So I always feel as though, what's the intention behind it? What is the intent? It's like when they had the Boys, what is it, Menace to Society, and Juice, and Boys in the Hood, and Set It Off, and all of those types of movies. What's the intention? What are you really trying to do by putting this out there? And so, Roots, when you saw, Roots was definitely heavy. That wasn't an easy watch. That wasn't something that you could just, breeze through. You had to take your time to digest it, The color purple to me was a lot lighter. It wasn't as heavy, but it still had a lot of stuff that you had to sit back and work through. With regards to what is it, sexism and domestic violence and familiar relationships, incestuous relationships. That was a lot. That's traumatic for a lot of individuals. Why? Because it's actually going on. This is something that happens. And not everyone can look at that and say, we need to see this because we need to understand our past. That past may unlock some spaces in people that they're not ready to deal with at this moment. And unfortunately, we are everything that you're talking about, we are re-exposed to it over and over and over again. So again, the Emmett Till story is not an uncommon story. The issue is it's too common.
Yeah, and I see the yin and yang in everything. That's just, I think that's my gift. But I would rather be. I have chosen to be informed than to be left in the dark.
I think the assumption is that people are left in the dark, but they're not. I just think that they're not willing to re-expose themselves as a means of safeguarding themselves. I get when you say re-expose, I get people that may be my age or your age or Monty's age, but these are individuals who have never been exposed to it. That's an assumption. Never seen a mirror reflection of the struggle that they're going through. We've all seen Roots. You and I, Monty, we've seen Roots. We've seen Charlie. We've seen these things. I don't think that. I don't think that's entirely factual.
Don't try to underhandedly dig into my age. Don't try.
I didn't say I wasn't speaking to it. I wasn't speaking to an age. I'm just saying. And I mean, y'all two are closer generation than I am. That's true.
He tried it.
I'm being real. I mean, in our age range, 2 or 3 years is a lot, though.
I'm gonna say be careful, because we assume that individuals that are younger than us don't actually know anything, or that they're not aware, and they actually are.
Well, I'm only saying that. I'm only saying that because I'm in schools where you bring up information and they don't know it. They don't know it. They may have heard the feeling or emotions attached to it about it, like slavery. I don't think they don't know what slavery is, but the individual impacts that individuals throughout history have had on our history, whether it be from non-Blacks or Blacks alike, they don't have a basis for this information.
I'm gonna say
not even the top 5 that was rammed down our throat. They don't know who these people are.
I don't blame them. I blame the storytellers, or the people who aren't telling the stories. Because I think that what they're giving you is what they've been given. And if they minimize it, it's because it's been minimized when it was delivered to them.
And that's my point about, at least these films are giving, and I'm speaking about films, not the Steven Spielberg point of view, not the such and such, but the ones that are coming from us. There's now in today's world, they are getting a much raw perspective of what our history is, which makes it even more traumatizing. I get that, but it's coming from us now. It's not Steven Spielberg wanting to, get rid of some of his Jewish guilt and telling our story by putting a Whoopi Goldberg in a position that nobody would have ever put her in, because that role was supposed to be Tina Turner. Crazy enough. And I see how, over years they've tried to give us little doses, or allow us rather doses of a reality. And I think by them doing that, it has made these generations to come less needing of the history, the story, because that's why history repeats itself, because we do not pay attention to it.
I think that the reason I will say the reason it may be there is a disconnect is because one, it's like it's like giving a baby a steak. You know what I mean? They're not actually ready to digest it, so you have to give them in doses. And I think that in the way that you do that is you tie it into something that they can connect to, that they can relate to. And I think that a part of it is that you just dump it. You just like here, and they're not necessarily ready to receive it. Again, I blame that on the storytellers. I remember, I mean, me growing up, history. I mean, we were for me, it was nothing for us to get a dose of Black history every month. You know, there was something in our curriculum that was always talking about. Now, whether it was factual information, that's another story, but there was always something about someone Black that I was being taught in school and outside of school. But things have shifted, times have shifted. The quality of education has shifted. The intention behind education has shifted. And so when it comes to these stories about Black people, Black lives, I think that a lot of it has been minimized, you know, and I think that's for several reasons.
Not even minimized, just taken out completely.
Well, but a lot of stuff has been, you know. There's a lot of distrust, you know, and so even if they were to tell the stories, you have to look at who's telling the story and why they're telling the story. You know, what are they trying to do with it? Because again,
go ahead.
Again, like you said, when you named the Emmett Till story, you named it. How many variations of the same story have you named?
Well, it's not necessarily variations of the story. There was it's been in different, like there's been a biography about the mother. There was a biography about Emmett Till. Then there was a story from the mother's perspective. So it was different people telling the story depending on where they were in proximity to the story.
So when you're telling,
it was a history book, whether it was an autobiography, whether it was a recounting of the story from actual individuals. And then there was, I mean, we live in a space now where I think always there's more access to interpretation, and which can be good or bad. And that's really the reason for today's topic, because I see some of them, and I don't even see gay, whether the individual, the young man, is gay or not, in depicting this person. It is how we tell stories. Like as Black people, we embody the story when we pass it down. And I think, you know, especially looking in terms of the topic for today versus what we brought up about Emmett Till or all that, it is our way of telling our experience. And I never looked at any of those young men or older men or whatever as a false interpretation, because that's how they saw it. I remember coming home and the many variations of religion that I got throughout my young life. We were going to a Pentecostal church, and I remember the benediction song. And I would come home every weekend, and for a week, I would imitate the pastor, Pastor Price. I would just imitate her in her voice, in her mannerisms, because that's what I saw. So had I had that impetus to get on camera, I would have had a whole church full of people to depict, because that's just what I saw. And I just feel like that is our way. So in us on the other side, telling the Emmett Till story, the reason that is significant that we tell this story now, because the first story like you said, the intention behind that story may have been genuine, but the representation or the other hands that movie had to go through that was filtering the story became, it wasn't even about Emmett Till anymore. It became about the uncle or the grandfather that tried to protect him. That it was clear that everybody felt bad, and everybody feeling bad and wanting to kind of tell the truth, they forgot about the person who was at the center of all this, who was Emmett Till. So this movie, I think, is going to somewhat do the same thing, and it's going to be about the mother, because we're living in a space where women are getting their voices. And who would be a better representation of a woman or a mother gaining her voice? Mamie Louise. You know, so I think depending on where we are in time, in terms of war, whoever the victor is, that's how the story gets told. And I think we need, as Black people, we need every side of the story, because you go hold on. If you only see the woman empowerment in Emmett Till's story, great, you got it. That's how you go get it. You may not see the full picture, but you're going to get a story that helps us to pull ourselves forward. And I'm not a bootstraps type of person, but I think we need to collectively pull ourselves forward, because we are waiting on a nation, a world, to acknowledge something that they'll never acknowledge. They'll never acknowledge it. And I think we need to not necessarily give up hope on that, because I think we have gained a number of allies over the years just based off of Freddie Gray or Philando Castile or Eric Garner. We were able to, what's the latest one? His name jumped out of my head. But the last martyr that we just had in the civil rights movement, I think people are seeing it from oh shit, this not just a movie, this not just a TV show or a rap song, this shit is real life. And the only way we got that was due to social media. You know, and it's interesting what hits people, what affects people. Because what was the last guy name? What was his name? Shit.
What, Floyd?
Floyd, I was about to say Floyd Mayweather. George Floyd. It's interesting how we look at George Floyd and got disgusted, but when Philando Castile, we watched the officer shoot him. It wasn't from a distance, from afar, where we just heard the gunshot and saw the person fall. We saw him pull the trigger and shoot him. But George Floyd, it did something to us, because the image of what we saw, we're used to seeing that. And I think that triggered something. But, you know, if we can't see anymore, if we are to do away with slave narratives, we got to do away with the news. We got to do away with the internet. Because there's always going to be a depiction of our story.
But oddly enough, I think people are. I want you to. So when you say do away with it, I think that I don't think that they're saying that the stories. I don't think Sherry, in my opinion, I can't speak for her. I'm just assuming. But I
don't like Sherry, so everything I say about Sherry is always going to be from that point of view. I just don't like them. I don't.
I just think that what she was saying is that it's a story that's been told in different ways, and you can't tell the story any differently, you know. And that's just my take on it. I think that she's, you know, like, it's a million slave stories, and you could, from a female's perspective, from a child's perspective, from a male's perspective, from a white man's perspective. I mean, how many more perspectives do you really want to tell a slave story from?
I think as many as it will take to get all parties concerned together.
And so I think it's just been, I believe that she's saying it's just saturated. You know, it's a lot of stories out there. There's a lot of very perspectives. There's a lot of takes on it. And I think that's like when, you know, I can understand what she's saying by that, because it's like, okay, how many more perspectives are you going to tell a story from? And what's the intention? What are you going to do with this story that you've told it? What do you expect from us? As or what do you?
What made the hairs on my ears stand up was, so unbeknownst to a lot of people, Kim Whitley, as cut up as she is, she graduated from Fisk University. And that's what Sherry said. She was like, somebody who graduated from Fisk University, why would you want to play a slave? And they were just.
And again, I think we're taking
feeling that I get.
I mean, there may be some truth to it, but then these are two comedians. So they may, you know, I don't believe that it should have been taken. It should be taken as deeply as it is, because, you know, their perspective on things is a little bit more comedic. You know, I don't think she. The Sandman on Netflix just surprised viewers by releasing one new. Oh yes, but I was reading something else. But I don't think she meant to be. She was saying that it was that she didn't want to hear any more slave. You know, she didn't want to see anymore. I think it's just been saturated, and she was just being comedic in the moment. I'm again interpreting it as such. I'm not saying that that's what it was. I just think that we live in an age where everything is so serious, you know, and everything is taken so literal. And it's like, you know, it's probably not as serious as we're making it out to be. I do know that this movie right here, this movie, I want to see it, but I know that it's going to, yeah, I'm gonna be angry for a couple of months. It's gonna stoke those flames that I've been quelling, and I could see me being, you know, ready at the ready. Like, please do not get it mixed up and twisted. You know, I will get Arab and ethnic on you after seeing this movie. But
I do think that a lot of the stuff, sometimes we can be overly sensitive, but sometimes for me, we're overly sensitive in the wrong direction. You know, and I'm speaking as, you know, somebody that's about to go back into the school world and risk my health yet another school year. But why
do you do it?
Why? Well, I'm that person because my classroom is always filled up with photos and images of Black people. You know, because over the school year, you know, if you don't go away with knowing one of these people, I'm better at it. And not just because you saw them in, you know, a movie, but because you know this person's impact on what you're able to do today. So that's why
I would say something to you.
I don't go for the money or the attention. It's simply because I just have met too many students who don't know anything about their history other than a character someone played on TV.
I will say this. We see you, mother. We see you. But I was I will say this before we close. Don't think that just because they may not be stating that they've actually gotten something, that they haven't retained anything. They're listening to you. It may appear as though they're not listening, but they're listening to you. Because I've had a lot of students come up to me and they will state something that I said to them and I thought that they weren't listening, and they actually were. They were retaining the information. It just doesn't look like they're retaining the information. And with that being said, this is the Cocktails. No, this is Be Exposed. This is the Artist Exchange.
It's the Artist Exchange
on Be Exposed Radio. We'll see you next
back every Friday. Next week, we will have a guest. I'm just praying that we're gonna have a guest. But yes, just continue to just do your history, know your history, read a book. Bitch,
No.
books are not extant. I still read books. This is the book that I'm reading now. Read a book, read a book, read a book. Any book. Learn something, nigga. See y'all next week.
Toodles.
Nigga, learn something.
Who said they're not learning anything? Let me get you. So I have to go into